प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय, श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, श्याम वेद भक्तवृंद की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to C.C. Guru Garang and Thai Gaur Premanandi. Nam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Tilamade Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Namaste Sunyavadi Prashatyade Sitarane Om Agyanatiminandasya Janardana Salakaya Chaksusamilitan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Caitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Sarpandantikam Manchakopaduriyasya Kripa Sindhuve Vatsapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Rajpataparudra, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinathacharya are on the roof of the king's palace. They've gone there because Maharaj Pataparudra desired to see the devotees who had just come from Bengal, because they hadn't seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in more than 2 years. So they had just come from Bengal, they had walked all the way, and now they were going to see him. And they were waiting at Narendra Sarovar near the outskirts of Jagannath Puri. And they were going to come because Mahaprabhu was staying near the temple. And who knows the name of the place where Mahaprabhu was staying? Raise your hand.
Gambira.
Gambira means very, very deep, like a cave, very, very, very deep, because Mahaprabhu would very deeply enter the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna in the Gambira. So they were coming, they were ecstatic, those devotees were already at Narendra Sarovar, and the king wanted to see them, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who had never seen the devotees from Mayapur, Navadvip, Kalinagram, he'd never seen them before, never met them before. So he wasn't able to introduce or point out to the devotees who point out to the king the names of the devotees. So but Gopinathacharya, even though Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was from the Navadvip Vijayanagar, but Gopinathacharya, but he had left quite a long time ago, so he didn't know the devotees, but Gopinathacharya knew them. So the three of them went to the roof of the palace just to get an overview of the devotees coming, with the purpose of naming them so they would be recognizable by the king and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And this was right after Gopinathacharya had asked the king if he could arrange residential quarters for the devotees who had just come, and the king immediately agreed. His serving mood was so strong, despite the fact that he had been, on one level, rejected by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu himself. He wanted to serve. And he wanted to serve the devotees. And the service to the devotees is what is pleasing to the Lord. So he never, never turned his back on an opportunity to serve. And this was such a a strong point in his favor. And then the devotees, they appreciated him so much. After all, he was providing their prasadam and their place to live, etc. So the king said, "O Sarvabhauma, please show me one after another all of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees who are coming from Bengal." Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya requested the king, "Go up to the roof of the palace, and Gopinath Acharya knows every one of the devotees. He will identify them for you." Actually, I don't know any of them, although I have a desire to know them. And since Gopinath Acharya knows them all, he will give you their names. After Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said this, he went to the top of the palace with the king and Gopinath Acharya. And at this time, all the Vaishnava devotees from Bengal drew closer to the palace. They were moving from Narendra Sarovar, because when they arrived, they probably bathed. I think that's where they would bathe in Narendra Sarovar, and then they would move on to see Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. But they didn't really at this time know where Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was staying. Most of them probably had never been to Jagannath Puri before, but they were all ecstatic. And what did they do? We'll hear. Srup Damodar and Govinda, so they were moving, the group of devotees. I think there were, if I remember correctly, there were about 200 devotees. They were moving as a group towards the temple. And the closer they got, they were able to be seen by the king, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinath Acharya. And then they saw that Srup Damodar and Govinda, taking the flower garlands and prasadam of Lord Jagannath, proceeded to where all the Vaishnavas were standing. So they were moving this way. And Srup Damodar and Govinda had been ordered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give garlands and all Jagannath Mahaprasadam to specific souls. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first sent these two persons in advance. The king inquired, "Who are these two?" Because he had just come from South India, so he didn't even know the devotees in Jagannath Puri. He didn't know the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had never even seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So who are those two devotees who are coming from the residence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the Jagannath Prasadam and the garlands of Lord Jagannath? Who are these two? Please let me know their identities. Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he knew them. They were Govinda and Srup Damodar. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied. Now why did he reply and not Gopinath Acharya? Let's see if someone from South Africa can figure this one out. Yes.
Probably more intimately or more ecstatically, more excited to introduce them from his heart, maybe.
Yes, very good answer, but I don't think it's the right answer. But it was very good anyway. It was very spontaneous and full of rust. Yes.
I think mostly here.
Yeah, you don't immediately. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, they were related, but they were related. They were brother-in-laws, but he was the much senior, and his wife, who was the sister of Gopinath Acharya's wife, was the senior. So he was senior. So he, this is etiquette. And he was most enthusiastic too, because he knew them, of course. Yes, there's etiquette, so little subtle things come out. Does that mean that we should follow etiquette? No, how can we tell people who are in the West to follow any etiquette or any sadachar or anything like that? And what's the purpose of etiquette? Yes?
It's pleasing to Krishna.
Okay, but that's ultimately, yeah.
Order.
Order, yeah. Another reason.
It allows courtesy to flow with love and,
Yes.
and respect.
Yes, oh, these are better answers than the one I was thinking of. But I was thinking of, if we follow etiquette, and we avoid insulting people. Because, we do things enthusiastically and everything, but we don't know whose toes we're stepping on, or whose heads we're stepping on, or anything like that. So etiquette is actually not, because in the West there's a tendency to think etiquette is superficial, just on the surface, but it has deep meaning. And it provides the bridge for true affection to flow. It's not superficial, it's important. Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, here is Swarup Damodar, who is practically the second expansion of the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He knew Mahaprabhu's mind fully. He's referred to as Mahaprabhu's secretary. He was learned. He loved Mahaprabhu. He served Mahaprabhu completely. He knew his mind. He knew his internal mood. He was in Krishna Lila. He was Lalita Devi. So it was very, very, very intimate. So he had many services to do for Mahaprabhu, because he knew his mind, and that's really the art of being a servant. A first-class servant. You have to know the mind of the person you're serving, because like Prabhupada once, in the very early days, he was trying to explain to a group of young, wild Westerners that if I ask for water, what's the rest of it? You know the rest of this one? You know? Okay, what is it? If I ask for water.
If somebody asks for water, we should give water rather than giving a milk or a juice.
And of course, we might think, oh, milk is better than water. But he wants water. So, and Prabhupada also said, the first-class servant, he knows what to do without even being asked. And when serving Prabhupada, sometimes he would give directions just by the slightest movement of his eyes or his body like that, just do this. And the devotees who were serving him, and it wasn't easy to serve Prabhupada because you had to be conscious all the time of his pleasure and not become overly familiar or anything like that, and thinking, oh, he's just an elderly man or something like that. So, so Prabhupada said, So it said the first-class servant knows what to do without being asked. Second-class servant does it, whatever is required, after being asked. And the third-class servant, as you can imagine, after being asked, he just does what he wants anyway. So that kind of a servant isn't quite a servant, maybe. But, yeah. He's practically the second expansion of the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It means he knew exactly the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was in complete harmony. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of separation from Krishna, he would sing verses and songs about meeting Krishna. So that would pacify Mahaprabhu. So he understood his mind perfectly. And therefore, when Swarup Damodar says something, and this is some of the most important verses in the first chapter of the Mangalarcharana. The 14 verses, they were composed by Srila Swarup Damodar from his diary. It explains who Mahaprabhu actually was, so he was an authority. And so much of Caitanya Caritamrta, it's establishing who are the authorities in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. And it especially establishes Swarup Damodar. It establishes the six Goswamis, Ramananda Roy, Haridas Thakur. Yeah, these are the Haridas Thakur for the holy names. The six Goswamis, especially Rup Sanatan and Jiva, and all of them for the philosophy, establishing the philosophy, and Ramananda Roy, and in Rasa also, and composition, And these people could do things that they're people, but they're completely spiritual people. And they could do things that are impossible for an ordinary person to do because they were empowered. Mahaprabhu empowered each and every one of them. He gave them, that's called Shaktaves, means the Shakti enters into these people by Mahaprabhu's desire. So one is Mahaprabhu's desire, and the other is their suitable receptacles of that desire, because their thought is harmonious with Mahaprabhu's thought or with Krishna's thought. And they don't want anything other than to serve. They have love for Krishna, so they don't want anything other than to serve. So if we start thinking, from now on, I'm only going to want to serve, it doesn't work like that, because one has to have love to only want to serve. So the process is to develop love and appreciation. And while we're doing that, there's things that we should do that will structures, Vaidhi Bhakti, vidhis, that will help us, just like when there's a building. And in India, you still see this, you don't see it in the West. In the West, what you see is when they're building a tall building, there's metal scaffolding, and then what else do they put? Something like shade cloth of some kind of, looks like it, so that the bricks, etc., don't fall on people's heads when they're walking past while they're constructing. But in India, you still have these, but the purpose is the same, the scaffolding. They make it very much out of bamboo, although they're stopping nowadays and using metal scaffolding. And they just the bamboo, and they tie it with ropes. And then when the building is constructed, then the scaffolding is taken down. So when one has love for Krishna, the purpose of the rules and regulations aren't required, but until the building of our relationship with Krishna is established, then that scaffolding is essential. Papa kaha? Okay. But soon as the spontaneous love is there, then the scaffolding, the building has been completed, because that's the purpose of it. So Srup Damodar was above that platform. He lived always on that platform. And then the second person, the second person is Govinda. He is Lord Chaitanya's personal servant. So the secretary and the servant, they have different functions. Both are servants, but the secretary tends to, or the servant tends to the physical and the very practical needs, and the servant deals with the more conceptual things. So Prabhupada would have his secretaries do more organizational things, and the servant would deal with the physical needs. So Govinda, as we heard several weeks ago, had been ordered by Sri Ishwara Puri, the Guru Maharaj of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Govinda was the servant along with Kasiswar. They were serving Sri Ishwara Puri, and when it was time for Ishwara Puri to leave this world, he said, "You go and serve Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu." So Govinda immediately went to serve Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and immediately Caitanya Mahaprabhu, does anyone remember what happened? There was a quandary, a puzzle.
Did he embrace him? Did he embrace him?
No, but what happened?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was hesitant to
There was a
accept.
dilemma. Yeah, why?
Because you are the servant of my Guru Maharaj and you are my god brother. I cannot accept service.
I shouldn't be. You're in a very elevated position. You've heard, served, gotten so many blessings. How can I take service from you? But how can I not?
Order.
because it was the order of my Guru Maharaj. So I can't and I can. This is, and I must. I can't do it, and I must. This is what life is like, in case you haven't noticed. And you have to, and one has to learn the art of reconciling these apparently opposing points of view, because that happens so much in life, in a way that is suitable, meaning that it's favorable for our devotional service. We have to reconcile things. That's actually one of the characteristics of a Madhyam Bhakta. The Lord has sent, so they're both acting as servants of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord has sent garlands and remnants of Lord Jagannath's food with these two persons, simply to honor the devotees from Bengal. So they were carrying Mahaprabhu's mercy, or Lord Jagannath's mercy on the order of Mahaprabhu. So what are they going to do with them? So there were 200 people. They weren't carrying baskets of prasadam on their heads. What were they carrying? At the beginning, Sup Damodar came forward and garlanded who? Advaitacharya. Govinda next came and offered a second garland to Advaitacharya. So all the honor went to most exalted Advaitacharya. Now, this is a true and false or true or false question for all you students. All the other 199 devotees were thinking, why Advaitacharya has gotten 2 garlands, why didn't I get one? Natesh, true or false?
Must be thinking like that.
Huh?
They must be thinking like that.
He's testing us. I didn't ask how I was thinking, I was asking how these pure devotees were thinking.
I'm saying, yeah,
The thought never entered their consciousness. Is that what you would? Because, okay, what would have to be in your mind if Advaitacharya got 2 garlands, there were only 2 garlands of Lord Jagannath, what would your mind have to be like if you think, why didn't I get one, or both?
would be
Huh?
greedy to get one as well, instead of him getting 2.
Okay, but what was one, I'm not gonna ask you anymore. You're too pure.
Envious.
Huh?
Envy.
Yeah, they said, why did he get it? Why didn't I get it? But they're not like that. There's no envy. Can you imagine? Narottama Das Thakur, he compares envy in his Prem Bhakti Chandrika to like a spear in the heart. Can you be happy if you have a spear in your heart? Can you be happy if there's envy in the heart? No, you're 100% correct. Why? Because the only way you can be happy is you're not seeing anyone who has anything more than you. Then you can be happy. But only Krishna is like that. That means you have to close your eyes and close your ears and not think and not see anyone who has anything more than you, because there's always someone who has something more than us. No one has everything except Krishna. But no one thought like that. Rather, they were so happy. And when Govinda offered his obeisances by falling down flat before Advaitacharya, now here's your chance for redemption. Do you think the other devotees, okay, it's true or false, okay. All the other devotees were thinking, why didn't he offer Govinda offers obeisances to me. Why is he only offering it to Advaita Acharya? Is that true or false?
False.
Yes, very good, 100%. First in class. Dandavat Koila Acharya to him. And Acharya, he had never seen Advaita Acharya before. And Advaita Acharya asked Sruptamara about his identity, for he did not know Govinda at that time. And later on in Madhya Lila, you see very much Govinda in action. And he's so nice, and so humble, and so gentle. He knew etiquette perfectly. And Mahaprabhu would have take prasadam, and then there'll be remnants. So he would always save some for Haridas Thakur, and he would always give any devotee who asked for the remnants, some of the remnants, and then whatever little was left, he would take. And therefore, he was capable of being a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, one could ask the question, what would happen if there were so many devotees who wanted prasadam that there was nothing left for Govinda? And then one asked, I wonder if Govinda was worrying like that. But no. Because when someone has a serving mood like that, then everyone naturally wants to serve him too. And when you want everyone to serve you, if you have a master mood, just the opposite result happens. No one wants to serve you. So it's a very, secret things. So he didn't, Advaita Acharya didn't know who Govinda was, he asked. And then Sruptamara informed him Govinda was the servant of Ishvara Puri. He is very qualified. Ati Gunavan, he has all good qualities. Ishvara Puri ordered Govinda to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus the Lord keeps him by his side. Wherever Mahaprabhu went, like Srila Prabhupada once, when Harisori Prabhu started serving Srila Prabhupada, he said, your only service is to be with me 24 hours a day. So he was always by Mahaprabhu's side. So one could say he was very qualified. One could say he was very fortunate. But do you know how difficult that is? To be with someone 24 hours a day, to be with anyone. You have to be completely in a mood of servant. And one way to look at it is that anytime we're annoyed with people, and it's Krishna telling us, pointing out our false ego, as that we're not in a serving mood. What do you think about that?
Makes sense.
Yeah, but it's hard to deal with, hard to live with, because Krishna's always can be pointing it out. So Krishna consciousness is very, very subtle. There's never any lack of instruction, actually. So Mahaprabhu thus keeps him by his side. The king inquired, to whom did Sruptamara and Govinda offer the two garlands? Because remember, they're on the roof. His bodily effulgence, that person who is Advaita Acharya, is so great that he must be a very great devotee. Please let me know who he is. Gopinath Acharya replied, his name is Advaita Acharya. He is honored even by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. and he is therefore the topmost devotee. And then he began pointing out others. Gopinathacharya. Because also remember, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya didn't know him, Advaitacharya, either at that time. Here is the Srivas Pandit over here. Because I guess we can see if we have the vision. But if we have studied in Caitanya Caritamrta and Caitanya Bhagavata, then we'll know a lot of these people because they were associating, we'll know of them. And all of them, Prabhupada will explain, are capable, they're all Nitya Siddha devotees, they're all pure souls who are eternal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they're all capable of giving us blessings. So there is Srivas Pandit, and there is Vikesha Pandit, there is Vidyanidhi Acharya and Gadadhar Pandit. So these are the most senior devotees. Which ones of these are you most familiar with? Anyone want to say?
5.
Huh?
5.
But which one of these that I mentioned are you most familiar with? You yourself?
No,
Huh?
no, this Advaita Acharya, because when we recited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Advaita Gadacharya, they
Advaita,
come here.
but also Gadadhar
Shiv Sadi,
and Srivas.
Gadadhar.
Gadadhar Pandit. Do you know anything about Gadadhar Pandit? Do you know anything about Gadadhar Pandit? Say something about Gadadhar Pandit, please.
Gadadhar Pandit is Srimati Radharani herself. And his father is Pundarik Vidyanidhi.
Father or spiritual master?
Spiritual master.
And his mood was completely submissive to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's a contrast that you see later in Antilila between him, Gadadhar Pandit, and Jagannanda Pandit. When Jagannanda Pandit, he wanted to do some service for Mahaprabhu, and if Mahaprabhu, didn't want Mahaprabhu to undergo any austerities, and when Mahaprabhu wanted to act like an austere sannyasi, Jagannanda Pandit would become so angry at him, he'd go and lock himself in his room and he wouldn't eat. It's like throw a tantrum, almost. But it was just natural. There's so many different moods that love can be expressed in according to one's nature. And Gadadhar Pandit was he was very hesitant to even deal with Sri Vallabha Acharya because he wasn't in the favor of Mahaprabhu at that particular time in the Leela. So Gadadhar Pandit would say, it wouldn't look good if I did something that was displeasing to Mahaprabhu. But both moods are the foundation of both moods is love expressed through the different individual personalities. And Vikesha Pandit, what was he famous for? Does anyone know? Dancing. Doing kirtan, and later on when Mahaprabhu, yes, you wanted to say something?
He did kirtan and danced for 72 hours without stopping.
Only an eternal associate could do that. He was a gopi in Krishna Lila. And and he had a relationship with Devananda Pandit. It was all these different pastimes, wonderful pastimes that are in Chaitanya Bhagavata. And there's Acharya Ratna Purandara Pandit, Gangadas Pandit. Who is Gangadas Pandit? Does anyone know? He was, yeah.
He was the teacher of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah. And then, yeah. And then at some point he understood, and the Mahaprakash, he understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the Supreme Lord. And there was a story that's told in Chaitanya Bhagavata, not a story in the sense of we're telling a fictional story, that once there was, where Gangadas Pandit was staying, there was fear that the local rulers, we have to be politically correct here, the local rulers who were a member of a certain religion were very ferocious, and they would attack the Hindus sometimes. So there was fear of an attack. And Gangadas Pandit took his family out from that situation, and they had to get out very quickly. And they went to the Ganga, trying to get across the Ganga so that he was specifically worried that his wife would be taken away and horrible things happened to her. So they went to the Ganga to get to the other side of the river, but there was no boat. So Gangadas Pandit was in so much anxiety that he was ready to kill himself, and he began to pray to Krishna. And then suddenly a boat appeared and took him to the other side. And then, when Mahaprabhu was displaying his Mahaprakash, his pastime of 20 some odd hours, where he was displayed, he allowed everyone to see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He accepted everyone's food, and he was telling secret things about everyone that no one else knew. But him being in the heart, he knew. So when he called Gangadas Pandit up, and he said, "Do you remember that time when that religious group were acting very ferociously, and you were fearful, and you went to the Ganga to protect with your whole family, and you were so distraught because there was no boat to take you to the other side, and you were praying and praying and praying? At that time, I came from Vaikuntha as a boatman to bring you to the other side." This was something that Mahaprabhu told him during the Mahaprakash, his great manifestation of his supreme identity, so everyone could see it. And there was Sankara Pandit. And Sankara Pandit becomes famous. I can't remember who his brother was, but he was with me. He stayed with Mahaprabhu. And Sankara Pandit, so all these incredible personalities, 200 effulgent, incredible personalities had come to see Mahaprabhu. And Sankara Pandit becomes famous later on, is when Mahaprabhu was exhibiting too much ecstasy. And he was, in his ecstasy, he was trying to get out of the Gambhira, the rooms, to find Krishna. And he would rub his face against the walls. And the devotees were so distraught seeing that Mahaprabhu was injuring himself. They weren't thinking, "Oh, Mahaprabhu is so absorbed internally in ecstasy. Oh, how wonderful it is that all his limbs were contracted in his body." They weren't thinking like that. They were thinking, "Oh no, look what Mahaprabhu was going through, and he's rubbing his face." So they asked Sankara Pandit, especially at night, to stay with Mahaprabhu. And Sankara Pandit would would stay awake. And Mahaprabhu would lie down and he would put his feet on Sankara Pandit. And Sankara Pandit would massage his feet, his legs, and Mahaprabhu would rest. And then sometimes Sankara Pandit would fall asleep, because after all it was night, and Mahaprabhu would then get a blanket and put it around him. So he was famous as the couch of Mahaprabhu. I don't know how to say it in Bengali, but because he would put it. So how surrendered, how much they loved. This was the mood, that they just wanted to serve Mahaprabhu, and this is what he was asked to do in Mahaprabhu's service. And it was the joy of his life. Mahaprabhu's feet on his lap the whole night long, every day. But to get a service like that, or any service really, is the greatest fortune. And it's very intimate. And it'll be different for different individuals. I heard quite a few times there are devotees, I've mentioned this before, who have, they were close to Srila Prabhupada and did incredible service for Prabhupada, but somehow, circumstantially, they left for one reason or another. So in speaking to these great devotees, I asked them, what do they miss most now that they no longer are so connected to Prabhupada's movement? And invariably they would say, service. So we tend to take it for granted that we have, as if it's a job or work, but it's seva, something completely different, and it's great fortune. Great, great fortune. And there's Murari Gupta just pointing out these effulgent, incredible persons, one by one. Pandit Narayan and Haridas Thakur, who is, he calls him, this is Haridas Thakur, Iha Bhuvana Pavana. What does Bhuvana Pavana mean? Yes. What does Bhuvana Pavana mean?
Who can like purify the earth?
Yeah, purify, uplift the whole world, the savior, the deliverer of the whole world, the deliverer of the universe. That's how Prabhupada says Thakur Haridas can deliver the whole universe. Because he's teaching what? Yeah. And in Kali Yuga, without the holy names, there's very little hope. And Thakur Haridas would just so humbly chant continuously, kirtan, japa. Sometimes his japa is even, he's chanting, and it's called kirtan, which is out loud. But and he was chanting on his beads. Sometimes he would chant and dance too. And how much did Haridas Thakur chant every day?
192 rounds.
3 lakhs of names. I mean, 300,000 names. So 300,000 divided by 16 is one mantra, and then divided by times 108, and anyway we get to 192 rounds. So how long does it take you to approximately to chant 16 rounds?
2 hours.
More than, for me it's more than 2 at this point in my life. So, okay, so if you're chanting 16 rounds, and it takes, say, 2 hours, and you are chanting 64 rounds, how many hours would it take? So, and that's 100,000 names, so it's 300. So 300, so it's 8 hours, right? We're up to 8 hours because it's 16 times 4. And this is if you're chanting. So how many hours does it take to chant 300 names for 192 rounds? Approximately 24 hours. So, but what about everything else? Not much time left, is there? Haridas Thakur, the deliverer of the whole universe, and he was completely satisfied. There's one pastime of Haridas Thakur where he was living in a cave in Pulia. Has anyone ever been to Haridas Thakur's place in Pulia? In around Mayapur? Have you been? Have you been? Have you? Lalita, have you been? You were there. Yes, you were. Next time. No? 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 Mataji?
Yes.
Who went with you? Prabhu, you went also. Baba, you went to Pulia? Yes?
Yeah.
Nice. Balo. It was a good place. It's so nice, yes? Very secluded in Haridas Thakur. Anyway, there was a cave. This one pastime is about when he was in a cave. And somehow or another there was a poisonous snake living in there. And it was giving off so much venom that people would come to visit Haridas Thakur and get his blessings and instructions. But they couldn't even stay there because of the venom from the snake. So he, and Haridas didn't mind. And living with the same place as a poisonous snake is quite dangerous. But Haridas didn't mind at all. And so the people who came to see him, they couldn't tolerate being in that place because of the venom of the snake and their fear that the snake would come and bite them. So they said, Haridas, you shouldn't live here. And he said, why? Poisonous snake. Anyway. But when Haridas understood that they were afraid, and he was causing them distress, then he said, well, if the snake is still here after 24 hours, then I'll move. And as soon as he said that, the snake, huge snake, left. And everyone saw it. Because Krishna in the snake's heart was, didn't want to inconvenience Haridas Thakur because he was just engaged in glorifying Krishna 24 hours a day. So each of these persons, they're individuals and they have different pastimes and services attached to who they are. And here is Haribhatta, there is Nrsingananda, there is Vasudev Datta and Shivananda Sain. There's Govinda Ghosh, Madhava Ghosh, Vasudev Ghosh. There are three brothers and their Sankirtan, congregational chanting, pleases the Lord very much. And there is Raghava Pandit. And here is Acharya Nandana. And here is Sriman Pandit. And here is Sri Kanta and Narayan. So Prabhupada, there's quite a long purport here. This is what, I'll read some of it. One should not think that because Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was personally present 500 years ago, only his associates were liberated. Rather, Srila Narottama Das Thakur says that anyone is a Nitya Siddha if he acts on behalf of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu by spreading the glories of the holy name of the Lord. So immediately we think of Srila Prabhupada. We should respect those devotees preaching the glories of the Lord as Nitya Siddha, and should not consider them conditioned. And then he quotes Bhagavad Gita, Mam Jehovah Vacharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Saganan Samatityaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. One who has transcended the material modes of nature is said to be on the Brahman platform. That is also the platform of Nitya Siddha. The Nitya Siddha not only stays on the Brahman platform, but also works on that platform. Simply by accepting the associates of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu as Nitya Siddha, one can very easily go back home, back to Godhead. Then Gopinathacharya continued to point out the devotees. Here is Suklambara. So Suklambara is very famous also. And here is Sridhar. Also Sridhar is very famous. And here is Vijay. Caitanya Mataji knows what Vijay is famous for.
Vijay.
Yeah.
Vijay?
Yeah.
What's Vijay famous for?
Caitanya Mataji knows, but she's just testing me to make sure that he was a scribe. He could write so
Oh,
beautifully.
Vijay, the penman.
I told you she knew.
Vijay, the penman, yes. He was-
And then again, one time they took prasadam at Suklambara's house, and after prasadam, you know what they did?
I went to sleep.
They took a little rest. So Mahaprabhu lied down, and Vijay lied next to him. And then while they were resting, Mahaprabhu went like this. And his hand touched Vijay. And Vijay, it was like getting in touch with electricity. And he went mad in ecstasy. What did he see?
He saw that his hand was covered in all these incredible jewels. He had rings and beautiful bangles, and he saw so much opulence on Lord Chaitanya's hand, and his hand touched him. And he jumped up, and Lord Chaitanya put his hand over his mouth, like this, so he couldn't say anything. And then he went like mad.
And he just, for days,
He just ran out of the place.
and for days he couldn't talk. He was just in complete, the insanity of ecstasy, and he just wandered around Navadvip like a madman. You think about that?
Must be good.
Huh? Sorry, he jumped over you. It's okay. Yes, what do you think about that?
It must be exciting.
I thought it was quite exciting. What do you think?
One day we could strive to get touched by the Lord like that.
Yeah.
Probably far away for me, but
Why?
I have a long way to go.
But it was Mahaprabhu who extended his hand. So you should see how Mahaprabhu is extending his hand to you.
Really.
So that was Vijay the penman. And then Suklambara, Sridhar, Vijay, and Ballabhasen, and here is Purushottam, and there is Sanjay. So he's pointing out one by one, and here are the residents of Kulinagram, such as Satyaraj Khan and Ramananda. See, the stories behind everyone. And indeed, all of them are present here. Please see. Dekho, dekho, dekho. And here is Makunda Das, Narahari, Sri Raghunandan. These are the devotees from Sri Khanda. Charanjeev, Sulochana, all residents of Khanda. How many names shall I speak to you? All the devotees you see are all associates of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who is their life and soul. The king said, upon seeing all these devotees, I'm very much astonished, for I have never seen such an effulgence. Indeed, their effulgence is like the brilliance of a million suns, nor have I ever heard the Lord's name chanted so melodiously. And we'll stop here, but because now we move into something else. He says, Koti Surya Sama Saba. All of them are like Koti Suryas, thousands, millions of suns. Ujjala Varan, just so effulgent. And Kabu Nahi Sun, have never heard before a Madhura Kirtan, such a sweet kirtan. So this is going to change Jagannath Puri completely. The kirtan that the Mahaprabhu and the devotees are going to perform. And that's what the chapter is entitled, the Veda Kirtan pastimes. Veda means chanting all around the temple. Veda Kirtan. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
It's a history question. There's a devotee name here, Satyaraj Khan or something.
Yes.
So somehow in the history it became associated with a different religion, but wasn't always the case.
He became associated, no, not this same Satyaraj Khan.
No, the surname Khan.
Khan, oh. You mean were the Khans before the Muslims awarded people those titles? The Mughals? Is that what you're asking? Or is it's not a Hindu name?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah. I don't think there were Khans. There were always have been con artists though. You know what a con artist is? Gopal will tell you after. It's a person who is very expert at cheating, a con man. So that's different from, this was the title given by the Mughals to, like Malik, to people who performed very well in their government. Khan and Malik, and there may be others also, titles like that. Did that answer your question?
So you're saying that Khan is a title that came from the Mughals,
Yes.
but it was not restricted to the Mughals. It
Right,
was,
because after all, they were a smaller number than the Hindus. So they had to govern through the Hindus. There was also another one, Kesava Khan, I think. Yeah, who was in Ramakeli with Rupan Sanatan. Even Rupan Sanatan had Muslim names. Dalbia Kas and Shakara Malik. Does that answer your question? So it seems like once you got that title, it was passed on to that became your surname, and it was passed on to your children. It's honorific. What's the proper way of pronouncing that? Khan?
Khan.
How do you say it? Khan?
It's KH, so it's K.
Yeah, of
Khan.
course.
From the epiglottis.
And then the N isn't really pronounced, so not like Khan, something like that,
Yeah.
but aspirated.
It's probably Arabic in origin. So.
Any other questions? Yes, cool.
In terms of the devotional service is received, you've seen all the devotees getting it in a natural way, and the one which just described for Vijay, which was in, and I think Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's son-in-law, those received the devotional love like inorganically, not organically. So when you receive these kind of inorganically devotional service, you tend to become like mad, ecstatic. So I sometimes think about it like uh, it's always good to have an organic devotional service rather than suddenly a shock of a devotional service. That's what happens. But then the other point comes to my mind is also that maybe I'm still too much materially conditioned that I can't. I'm still thinking that half over here and half over there, and then let's grow organically. So, what do you think?
Well, there's different points of view to answer that comment with. One is that compare it to an honorary degree of a PhD and someone who studies and works and goes through the whole process. So using that comparison, you're saying that it's better to go through the whole process.
Yeah, like it's because when you get it, you are ready for it rather than
But-
3 days of
but
or
no
whatever
one
that
is-
duration is.
As far as I understand, no one's quite ready for it. Prema Bhakti, in that sense, even in Srila Vishwanath Bhagavati Thakur describes in Madhurya Kandamani, when he actually describes the step-by-step process, and he describes what it's like when you have Sakshat Darshan, you actually see Krishna. When your eyes have so much love that you actually see Krishna. And then he fainting and getting up and fainting and getting up. And he says that previously I compared your complexion to a monsoon cloud. But now I see how superficial that comparison was. Because we have a concept in our mind of what a monsoon cloud is or a rain-filled cloud, and it's a material concept. But Krishna is transcendental. So it has nothing to do with that in a sense. So love for Krishna has nothing to do with material consciousness. It's all Krishna's internal energy. And at some point, when Krishna desires, there has to be an infusion of Krishna's internal energy within our hearts that will water the seed of our natural relationship with Krishna. So that's one way to describe it. But to go mad like that, when Mahaprabhu, he was fainting after he came back from Gaya, after taking initiation from Ishwarpuri. And he was fainting and crying, and Mother Sachi didn't know how to deal with it. So she asked some of her friends or the neighbors, what should we do? This is happening to him. So someone said, well, this kind of disease is an imbalance of airs, so you should put some kind of oil on his head, you should wrap his feet, so many different things like that. And it was ecstasy he was experiencing, but no one could understand. So finally she called for Srivas Thakur to come and observe. When Srivas Thakur came to the house, he first began to water Tulsi. And then he circumambulated Tulsi. And as he was doing that, Mahaprabhu became ecstatic, seeing that the devotee was worshipping Tulsi. And he fainted and fell to the ground, crying. So then when he came out of that aspect of his trance, and Srivas Thakur was watching the whole time, he asked Srivas Thakur, everyone said that this is a madness kind of experience. I want to hear your opinion. And Srivas Thakur said, that kind of madness, I wish I could have also. So that kind of madness isn't the kind of madness that you want to avoid. It's transcendental ecstasy. It's like the body and mind of a person of this world can't experience it, so it appears like madness. But even in Goloka Vrindavan, when Krishna leaves, he goes to Mathura, everyone goes mad. But not mad. They're mad. They're mad. Not just simply mad. It's not like, so it's, but how can we conceive of this now with our material concepts? So we can't, but it's something different. Something of a different quality altogether. This world is a world of zeros. How many zeros does it take before you get put together the number one? That's, even if you had unlimited zeros, never comes to one. So how many material concepts would it take for us to understand the spiritual realm? It's of a different quality, different substance. So don't be afraid that the Mahaprabhu is going to like touch you and then you're going to go mad. And then how you go to work or whatever else it is you're doing. Well, I have such a problem that how will I drive my car? If I go mad in ecstasy of love for Krishna, how will I even, it's not like that. It's something different. But when we read about the great devotees and their experience of it, so we get a glimpse in that way. Maybe a glimpse from a far distance, but we can understand that it has a different quality to it, a quality that is very relishable. And we can get a glimpse of that quality through the deities, through the Dham, through the holy names, through the Bhagavatam, through the association of devotees. Just get a glimpse, like a fragrance of the different quality of the spiritual realm. And that's what it was like being with Prabhupada. We got a glimpse and you wanted more because the taste was different. It's nourishing to the soul. Like material tastes, we want more and more and more because it's not nourishing. I didn't get the advertisement didn't lead up, wasn't like the product. The promise of the advertisement didn't satisfy like it had promised. But in the spiritual, it's different. It's what the soul is longing for, the water, the nourishment. What do you think?
Yeah, as you said, it's really difficult to visualize it.
No, it's impossible.
Yeah.
How many? Because we live in the land of zeros.
Yeah.
So, and all our thoughts are zero thoughts. So we need transcendental concepts. So all we can learn now is perhaps, this is something different. And then maybe if we follow the process, then Krishna makes arrangement for gradually we experience what real life is. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I'm not that afraid of
Going mad? So Srivas Thakur said, that kind of madness I want. And Mahaprabhu replied to that, if you would have said that it was some disease, I would have jumped in the Ganga. Because Srivas Thakur was an exalted devotee, so he understood what it was. Don't be afraid of becoming a lover of Krishna. I think we all have fears. We fear of losing something. And that fear holds us back. Don't be afraid. That's what Mr. Dev told Prahlad Maharaj. Don't be afraid. Ma Bhaista. And Krishna says that too. Ma Sucha. Don't worry, don't fear, don't hesitate. Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you. Yes.
It wasn't that Vijay became mad forever and ever, by the way,
Yeah, just for a couple of days he wandered around.
because he couldn't express the intense experience that he'd had. He couldn't tell anyone, so it exploded within him for some time. But it wasn't that he lost himself in an abstract world. He went on after that.
But he never was quite the same. Don't be afraid. Okay?
But we have to act practically also.
Huh?
Because we have to hanker for that taste, we have to act practically also. So,
You mean you shouldn't act badly?
I mean, how will you be able to perform your prescribed duties, for an example, which is a platform of Krishna consciousness? So if
You mean if you become mad in the ecstasy of
not
of
mad,
prema
but
bhakti?
glimpse also we are getting it.
But okay, but we're not talking, this discussion was on not a glimpse. This part of the discussion was on prema bhakti level.
Yeah, but the glimpse leads to that prema bhakti.
Right, so don't worry about it. When you get prema bhakti, then you can worry about it. Oh, how will I take care
No,
of this?
but I mean, if that's the goal, then you are worrying about it all the time.
You are, baby. I have other worries. How am I going to get it? But you worry about, after I get it, how will I run my business? And who will take care of Brad Sudama? Don't worry. Worry more about it. Brad Sudama,
Yeah.
do you want your father to get prema bhakti? Love for Krishna? Are you worried that who will take care of me if my father becomes mad with love for Krishna? Not faking. You know that. Are you worried about that?
I don't know.
See? Don't worry. But we all have so many fears, but they spring from the material platform.
We could also say that for maybe the first experiences that brought us to Krishna consciousness, why did Krishna do that? Why did he give me this experience? I could have just lived my life. So it seems like Krishna continually does that. He gives you more than, I guess, you want or are necessarily ready for.
How come you say more than you want? Why don't you say more than I want?
I want. More than I want.
Why does Krishna give you more than you want? Is that what the sort of question? More experience of Krishna consciousness?
Because I guess.
Of course, it sounds so silly when you say it amongst the devotees. But we had, Caitanya Mataji and I had an experience in Hong Kong. Caitanya Mataji was preaching to this young man, and he was following the principles, and he was chanting 60 rounds a day, and he couldn't enjoy his life anymore. And she mothered him so heavily that he couldn't get out. So he prayed, and he couldn't enjoy. So he prayed to Krishna, please remove my Krishna consciousness so I can go on with my life again. And you know what Krishna did? He removed his Krishna consciousness, never to be seen and heard of again. So there is that path, but I don't think that's the path that you want. So why is Krishna more kind to us than we want or deserve? That because he's more kind to us than we want and deserve. He's also so tolerant. So would you rather surrender to a Supreme Lord who is more kind or less kind and less tolerant? You know, that's people's concept of God usually, you know, it's you have to do this, you have to love me, and if you don't love me, you can't be happy. Do you love me? You have to give up everything, surrender to me. Okay? Do you love me now? But Krishna is not like that. But I do remember many years ago being in Jagannath Puri. I was standing in front of Petit Pavan Jagannath, and like all the other pilgrims who used to do it, I took off my shoes and I began to pray. And I said, I'm so tired of not being a real devotee. Do whatever is required to make me into a devotee. And then I thought, oh no, what did I just say? I expected some brick to fall from the sky on my head or something. But instead, one attack came, those deities. Within 10 minutes after that. Did I answer your question? Or was you talking about something completely different?
No, I was just making a comment on the
Oh, yeah.
that Prabhu was saying that it seems like sometimes inorganically we get experience of a stage that we're not ready for. And in my experience, it's always been like that. It's Krishna provides the experience, and so it's not just at the end where you get prema bhakti.
It's like you go from 0 to 1,000. But if it's like your question on one level, I mean, it's like, is it better if someone just, but it's not a good example, what I'm going to say. Would you like someone to give you $1 billion, or would you rather have a job and work your way up?
When you think it from the material aspect, Maharaj, it makes sense to have it gradually. But then when you mentioned about
And Prabhupada gave the examples that some people get honorary degrees, PhDs, but you don't live your life hoping you're going to get an honorary degree. You study if you want a PhD. So that's the path that we take.
Honorary degrees always come from excellence anyway. They might have gone through that path of excellence, but they've done something extraordinary to get an honorary degree.
So and see, ultimately, the other angle on it is that ultimately it's only going to be an honorary degree or mercy that gives us prema bhakti, because it's causeless. It's really just mercy of the Supreme Lord, mercy of the devotees. What do you think? Because we can't
processing it.
There's nothing that we can do to give the person who has everything with millions of servants. I'd say, okay. We can't bribe him, we can't. he asked me for a leaf or a flower or fruit or water. How many leaves does he get? Tulsi leaves. Vrindavan is named after Tulsi Devi. What is our little offering going to do? So this is a meditation, actually. How can I please Krishna, considering I'm tiny and insignificant? Okay, but did you want to say something else? Yeah.
Even if materially you try to become a billionaire, you're still reliant on the mercy of others. So you have to, no one can just make $1 billion. You have to go, you have to ask someone for money, for capital, you have to go to a bank. At the very least, you have to be dependent on the mercy of a bank. And so to say that I'm just going to do it all is ignoring that you always need mercy from somewhere.
Anyone else want to comment on this also? Interesting point. What do you think?
No comments. I'm just.
Really good?
I didn't fully listen to him.
Okay. What do you think? No, everyone's going to say no comment, except for Jimmy.
I think one of Mahaprabhu's instructions is that he will deliver anyone and everyone as long as he does not go back to his old ways or sinful activities. So if one is very eager to receive that mercy from Mahaprabhu, we will get it at some point of time, not sure when. But we have to also do our part in making sure we don't go back, or I don't go back to my old sinful ways.
Nitesh, you'd like to say something?
Jimmy goes like this.
What he said.
As opposed to no comment? Very intelligent. Pranamani, you want to say something? Sonia? Okay. Mr. Radhaman, you have something to say on a different topic?
He's an announcement.
Or on this topic, yes.
This topic is, it's important to live a life, depending on this. However, depending on ourselves.
That's the teachings of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Did you want to say anything else also?
Tonight, Shishira Gopinath will be giving their full mercy on the Julam at 7 o'clock. Anyone who'd like to join us, Julam tonight. And next Sunday, we have our Jamasmi